If you've ever practiced classical drawing, you already know the value of slowing down and the challenge of really seeing. Resources like the Bargue drawing course from the 19th century Atelier tradition are perfect to not simply learn how to draw, but rather learn how to see. The Bargue plates are great, I really recommend them. But what if I told you that there is another set of plates, less famous, a bit more advanced, that's just as powerful, if not more so? I'm talking about the Julien drawing course by Julien and Course. Think of it as the second act to the Bargue course, more complex forms, deeper observation, and a stronger push towards mastery. Let's break down what makes these plates so effective and how you can use them to sharpen your eye like a 19th century Atelier student. All you're going to need is some decent drawing paper, HB, 2B, and 2H graphite pencils, a kneaded eraser, a plumb line or spirit level, some coffee, patience, and a model that you can simply download with one of the links below. So here is a step-by-step guide on how to draw a Julian plates portrait. Step 1, you want to set it up side by side. Print the plate and place your drawing paper next to it. The Julian plates don't necessarily require that you do them side-size, but because it's so helpful and because it simplifies comparison so much, and because we place them side by side, there is no reason to enlarge or shrink your final subject. So I really recommend that you do them side by side, but do as you want, I guess. Step 2, you're gonna start with a plumb line and a couple landmarks, like let's say the top of the head, the corner of the eye, the bottom of the nose, or the bottom of the chin. One of the biggest problems, what makes the complexity of the Julien's plates, is that very often they don't have the top of the head, they don't have the back. Very often they sort of blend out. But it's okay, because what you want to do is you want to trace some sort of a spine, and you're going to draw a sort of a vertical plumb line and choose 4 to 5 key landmarks that are easy to locate. If possible, if they cross the plumb line, that's even better. And you really want to focus heavily on measuring the distances between those different landmarks. I made a complete video talking about the method that I use, that I call the E method, to sort of evaluate the distance between key visual landmarks and using the plumb line to refer them to. And you really want to take your time to place those key visual landmarks very well and very precisely, because they're going to be your visual guide for the rest of your drawing. So we're not using a full grid here, but we're going to use kind of just the spine of the grid, and from there you can infer what the different coordinates of the various points in the drawing just by referring to this kind of spine. Once you have your spine, you want to start with an envelope of the head, 4 to 5 straight lines that will kind of wrap around the basic outer silhouette. Think of it as abstract geometry and not features. You don't want to dive into the features, you don't want to draw an eye or draw a nose. You want to see the shapes and try to place it and draw it exactly with the right size, the right dimensions, and the right shape. Now let's take some time to talk about the resources. What are the Julien plates and how were they meant to be used? These resources are pretty old. They date back to the 19th century. Before there was the Bargue drawing course, which now kind of has a little bit of a renaissance, there was actually the Cours de Dessin by Julien and Course, a drawing manual or a set of drawing plates packed with hundreds of refined academic plates. And they were used for 19th century drawing education. These were very serious tools for very serious students. They weren't just practice sheets, they were the backbone of a full academic training program. Compared to the Bargue plates, these were very complex. In fact, too difficult for most students, so they had to be replaced. Actually, I would need to make some more research. It's hard to find, but I think that the Bargue was commissioned with the idea that because the Julien's plates were so difficult, they needed to make things more intended for beginners, so that's what they did with the Bargue, with more simplified forms and progressive and didactic help. The Bargues are perfect for beginners. The Julien plates are a lot more difficult, but it's fine. We like difficulty here. We don't mind picking these plates up, provided that we treat them more like advanced drawing exercises. They depict casts, portraits, figures with more naturalistic modeling and subtler transition. They're more realistic in general. They're less about abstraction, more about refining your observational precision and understanding how light wraps around form, with very elegant, more artistic poses and incredibly complex directional hatchings. Thankfully, you don't have to follow the hatchings, you can just blend naturally. To be perfectly honest, the Julien plates were not well designed for beginners. They were supposed to be elementary, this is what they were called, but there's nothing elementary about them. Look at these two versions of the Homer cast, for example. The Julien one is beautiful, really elegant, and incredibly similar to the actual sculpture. It's beautiful, it's elegant, very artistic, but complex. Unlike the Bargue, the Julien plates, they have no simplified shapes, they have no indication of the steps in the process, no help of any sort or any useful visual cues to simplify the drawing. The Bargue go from simple to complex progressively, but the Julien hits you with the highest level of complexity from the get-go. They're beautiful, but tough as nails. So you might think, why on earth are we talking about them then? What's the point? Well, think about it. Do you have visual cues and simplified shapes when you try to draw from life? When trying to draw from an actual live model? No, and this is how real life models are, beautiful and complex, just like the Julien plates. Think of them as a bridge between the basic training, which would be the Bargue, and full-on life drawing from a model before you even have the time to get a model. And they're still relevant for that, because after the Bargue course, they can be used as a sort of an advanced version. They are still useful for that, before you can switch to actually drawing from a live model. They train your eye to see with clarity and intention, and they train you to deal with the incredible level of difficulty that a real live model will pose you when you ultimately attempt to draw from life. Even with all the tutorials and the tools that we have today, this kind of foundational practice is still the most direct route to clean proportions and just beautiful drawing. So step 3, you want to block in the major shapes. So you want to ignore eyes, nose, and mouth for now, and just focus on the large shadow and light areas. You want to break them down into flat, abstract shapes. So whenever you have the simplified version, like this one on the left, you actually don't use them. Don't want to use them because you can't really block in from that. It's only linear, so it's not really a simplified version. They're really not helping, and in fact, they're more confusing than anything. So for all these simplified versions, you really want to forget about them and just work from the finished drawing. Use some sort of an invisible triangulation to measure and find the key landmarks. So for example, how far is the corner of the mouth from the bottom of the nose, or how far is the top of the eyebrow from the top of the forehead, what angle is the brow compared to the ear. You don't want to guess, you really want to learn how to measure angles, distances, and the tilts with your eye or with a pencil. And ultimately, if you don't know how to check, you can use a measuring tool, and you can actually measure the difference between what's happening on your model and what you have drawn on your subject. The Julien course is difficult, but this is still the best way to fix a sloppy eye and train your eye to see. One of the biggest difficulty with learning how to draw is not the drawing part, like your hands are fine. It's your eye. It just doesn't know how to see as an artist, see purely in terms of shapes in terms of proportions. And we all get loose with proportion. We always fudge a curve here, estimate a shadow there. That's where the Julian plates come in. They're ruthless. If you miss a tilt, it's going to be very obvious. If you oversimplify a shape, your entire drawing will fall apart. This is really advanced eye training, like doing scales if you're a pianist. Not fun at first, but soon you'll notice that your sketches are more solid in general. Your portraits overall are more accurate, and your confidence will be higher. The key here is that the Julien course really trains the highest level of discipline, and discipline gives you freedom. I think they can be called the next level after the Bargue, because in a typical atelier, you would start your first drawings with a Bargue plate, kind of simplified and nice shapes to just practice, warm up, and from there you would then switch to drawing from a cast like this one, which is one of the most complex ones. But if you don't have a beautiful cast like this one of my friend Michelangelo here, the Julien plates are a great alternative because they have this complexity about them that really makes them advanced. So it is the thing that you would do when you're done with your Bargue training. Ideally, you would switch to casts, but the Julien plates might be the next best thing. One key about them is that you need to take as much time as you need, like really. If this takes you like 10 hours to be perfect, so be it. Nothing exceptional in art is accomplished by taking shortcuts. I know it sounds weird to our modern ears, given that we're so used to immediate satisfaction at the press of a button. Try this kind of drawing. It's almost therapeutic in a way. It goes against all the fast consumption garbage that we're fed every day, and it's almost like meditation in a way. Step 5, you want to refine the features with angles. You want to begin drawing the features as well as you can using straight lines and angular shapes, and you want to soften the curves later. You don't want to be drawn into curves too early. You want to stay constructive and always compare eye versus nose, nose versus chin, chin versus ear. You want to go around the entire area of your drawing and progressively compare and place the features, place the key landmarks all over the place. You have a sort of a spiral way of working all over the place, trying to pick up the best cues every time you can find one. When it comes to values, you want to keep them clean and don't rush. You don't want to smudge too much. You don't want to overdo the shading. The goal is to have something clean, decisive, and structured. Make it as if it was a sculpture made of light and shadow. As we said, this would be a great replacement for an actual cast drawing if you don't have a cast. Step 7, you want to model carefully. This is the step wherein you want to start turning 2D into 3D. But you want to do that with small increments. It should go slowly. It should start with the darkest values, and then you start refining them and refining the values surrounding them to produce a full sense of form. The good thing about the hatchings is that you can follow their direction, and it will give you an indication of how you can move forward. But you don't have to keep the hatchings in the final version of your drawing, because technically we are not using the same tools as the tools that were used for the lithography. The styluses that they have are not exactly the same thing as the graphite pencils that we have, so we have to work with the limitations of our tools. You can't exactly do the same kind of hatching that Julien has on these plates, so it's useless to attempt it. And it's just an extra level of difficulty that's not adding anything to the table. You want to do normal values, you want to do normal blending, but ultimately in the end, after everything has been nicely blended and softly modeled, what you can do is you can refine and add a couple hatchings, but more as some sort of a decoration and texture. So this would be step 8. You want to render and finish And now you can start following the direction of the hatchings, but you already have the values nicely modeled and blended below. So now it's just for embellishing that you're doing it, but ultimately you're not really following the hatchings. Here, the goal isn't the drawing, it's the seeing. And it might sound strange, but the goal of copying a plate like that is not to create a perfect copy. It's to see better the next time you draw from life. It's cross-training. These drawings sharpen your brain so that when you're in front of a model or in front of a still life, your instincts are sharper, your judgments more confident. You will know what to draw because you will know what to see. So final takeaway, the Julien course wasn't made for our era of short-term satisfaction and quick results. It's meant for the patient mind who knows what it means to invest yourself fully into a project and knows what it means to place beauty as a cardinal value. Beauty isn't easy, it's complex, it's absorbing, it's demanding. And the Julien's course was made with beauty as its final goal. It was made to make you better, quietly, invisibly, and it still works today.